with Bucky, Director of the Space Portfolio at Defense Innovation Unit. And then he'll hand over to Casey, CEO of NewSpace New Mexico. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm just going to move your laptop here. That's right. There. So, well, first of all, I'm so jazzed to be up here. For one thing, it's sunny and it's beautiful. When we come back here again, we have to figure out how we can do this so we can have all these drapes open, because I'm sure it's just a beautiful scenery behind me. But I remember, Lisa, we had this conversation some time ago, and when we first started talking with Explore, and she says, we have this rich community of space people up in the Northwest. We really need to kind of galvanize, right? We talked about this at I think it was at one of our earlier State of Space Industrial Base meetings, and of course, COVID slowed things down. But then we did a regional visit up here last year, and I can't give you the exact numbers here in public, but we have a significant amount of contract activity from DIU in this area, which is great because we enjoy the coffee, the salmon, Lake Washington. We're actually team DIU's taking over Georgetown on this trip. So, but more importantly, it's really about the people, and that's how we're going to crush this. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why we're here, what the pace of what things are, the pace that things are moving right now is like phenomenal, and then I'll talk a little bit about what the nexus is to national security. So this is our 5th year of doing the State of Space Industrial Base workshop, and it really wasn't our idea. The first year, the idea came to us from Air Force Research Lab, and they said, "Hey, we should do something and bring some companies together." And we actually did it in Silicon Valley at our building there, in order to really talk about a lot of malfeasance. There were a lot of foreign interference in the marketplace, and so we did that. We published our first report, and a lot of people in Congress and government paid attention to it. They thought it was good, and it provided insights that they didn't have, and then we kind of stepped it up. So this is our 5th year, and what we like to say is we like to kind of change the normal talking head program. This is a talking head portion, but we want to give the audience the microphone, and really what we want to pull out of all of you for the next day and a half is really specifically, the challenges, opportunities, recommendations for action. What are the things that we need to do specifically in these 2 focal areas of the evolving hybrid space architecture, which is basically internet and space, and the other one, which is advanced power and propulsion. And we decided to do that here because this seems to be like the backyard for a lot of that activity. There's so much going on, both big companies and small companies. And we figure that it's about time that the government actually come to you, so that, one, we can actually enjoy the benefits of the area, but no, less so. But more importantly, so we can maximize the availability of you and your expertise. And we did this last year for the very first time at Cape Canaveral, and we had 100% of all the launch companies participate in a day and a half. And this is not a do this and you don't need to participate in our main conference, which we host with NewSpace to New Mexico. The idea is really that try to maximize the input, especially from these very unique industrial sectors of the new space economy, because it matters. Let me just tell, this is my probably all-time favorite quote from just January this year from Bill Nelson, the NASA administrator. "It is a fact, we are in a space race, and it is true that we better watch out that they don't get to a place on the moon under the guise of scientific research. And it is not beyond the realm of possibility that they say, keep out, we're here, this is our territory. And of course, he's speaking about China. Just within the last few days, one of the senior members of CASC in China is pleading with his government that they need to accelerate the pace of their pursuit of lunar exploitation, because if they don't do it, they'll lose out. And you say, well, how would they lose out? Because we're not going there to conquer the moon. We're going there to basically kind of set the rules, and that's just the point. So what we're doing more than just exploring and technically advancing our capabilities. We're really, this is a generational type of thing. In fact, this is a multi-generational thing where we are really shaping the way in which our human species moves off the planet and does it in a way that's consistent with our morals, our values, and our belief that, you know, men are equal and should live in a free society. So that's gonna be troubling to some, and this is not like us versus China or the Chinese people. The Chinese people think about space the way we do. They're all excited about it. This is really us and the CCP. The CCP's got some pretty extraordinary ideas, and they've already demonstrated some of this with the Spratly Islands and other territories here on the terrestrial Earth. So let me shift to a more exciting topic, though. Here's a short list. Peter and I've been putting this together. All the things that have been accomplished since the last SSIB workshop, which was just, was it May of or June? May of last year. Yeah. So just within a year, the National Security Strategy was released. The National Cislunar Strategy released. The National ISAM Implementation Plan came out in December. The National Low Earth Orbit Research and Development Strategy just came out a week ago. We've signed space framework agreements with our partners, including Japan and others. The Office of Strategic Capital, which is very important to you if once you hit that revenue curve and you need to go into production, Office's Strategic Capital will give you government-backed debt financing, which is something unheard of in the commercial space industry. We have a new Chief of Space Operations. NASA Capstone, first commercial cislunar mission. Artemis 1, how wonderful was that? And we don't talk enough about Artemis in this context, but we really need to, because the American people it's stimulated neurons, and they're like all in for space right now. So that's very important that we continue to support that. We had a devastating coolant leak at the ISS with the Soyuz. We've had some of the first CLIPS missions going to the moon. Anyways, I could go on. It's another half a page of things. It's just amazing amount of stuff. And then look what's happening. Hopefully this month, we'll have our first orbital test flight of Starship out of Boca Chica. We've got, we have other first coming up in the next couple of months. One of the companies that we're watching locally here, Stoke Space, I think this could be really exciting. But we've also had some launch failures. And I'll tell you one thing about this, because everybody loves to sit back and go, I'd never really thought. Here's the thing, launch is hard. And we talked to some very experienced people in the launch industry and in government before we got into the launch business. We have actually 7 current contracts with small launch providers. And they said, when there's a mishap, first thing you got to do if you're going to be worth anything is you got to go and say, I'm ready to buy another launch. And so that's the right thing to do. And that's what we need your help to put pressure on powers that be so we can continue to do that, because it's a learning experience, and that's how the companies get better. Here's what I'm hoping that we can do, though, as just to reiterate, we really want to focus on giving you the opportunity to talk about your issues, your challenges. What are the policy limitations that are holding you back? If you're having, we've gone through a lot of gyrations in the financial sector, for those who don't know much about Silicon Valley Bank, I'll tell you something that wasn't in the news very much. 65,000 startups banked at Silicon Valley Bank, and 350 venture firms banked at Silicon Valley Bank. So, and why is that? Well, a big part of that is because we have to normalize the financial sector to this growing space economy, and that gets us away from SPAC financing and other things that present risk. We cannot afford to fail in this commercial endeavor. We have more commercial integration going on. I was on a panel yesterday with Derek Tournier from SGA. We have our partners from NRO in the room, and they're our transition partner for commercial imagery, which has been fantastic. I didn't even mention all the commercial things that are having an impact with Ukraine, and it's important that you understand that it's not that their space is winning the war. It's information, the information superiority, the fact that Zelensky can talk every day to the world, that's winning. And a lot of that is being enabled by commercial capability. So the linkage with national security and economic security are intertwined in a way that they cannot be pulled apart. The innovation is moving rapidly. We need to do more to adopt it. We need to do things to help accelerate it on the front end, and then crush the valley of death and make sure that we're procuring it and using it. And there will be business models that fail because they're just either not well thought out or they're too early. We see a lot of stuff that's too early, and but that's okay. One of the areas that is not too early, but it's something we have to emphasize on, is one of the focus of this forum, which is the advanced power and propulsion. So if you can explore with battery packs. If you want to go and industrialize or settle on extraterrestrial environments, you need gross amounts of power, bandwidth, and mobility. And it's all three of those are concentrated right here in this region. So I think we're doing really well with the mobility part. We're doing really well with the communications part. You're going to hear a lot about that. We're very nascent on the advanced power and propulsion side, and there are big government programs, big dollar things, but they're not pursuing the unique things that we're doing with the commercial sector, most of which is centered right here. So I want to be able to have one of these things in my Tesla one day. But more importantly, if we want it to be survivable and get to places in a hurry, we need those capabilities. And thank goodness, that R&D is kind of concentrated here and getting a lot of attention and needs a lot more. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. I will definitely thank Casey and say thank you so much for not just hosting the main conference in May, but NewSpace New Mexico is kind of like the glue, helping to bring other regional organizations together. It's just a fact we're already under Chatham House rules. So I'm going to just say something political right now, which is that you have to engage with your representatives congressionally and with your senators, and even like your city council people, mayors. You need to get them excited about what you're doing and tell them that you need their help, because we need to really bring it on strong. And I was talking to Johanna about this morning. There's $140 billion budget for research and development in the entire Department of Defense. And yet we scrape the bottom of the barrel to get a few tens of millions to be able to support commercial activities like we're going to talk about today. And that's wrong. I have meetings all the time. We had one last week where we actually milestone reviews in our we always love milestone reviews because commercial companies crush it with milestone reviews. And it's the same thing we always hear from the government side. We had no idea that a commercial company could do something like that. And you're like, they're commercial companies. It's like, of course they can do this. And so the key thing is that there's doubt, and that doubt is basically leads to under resourcing. So and you would think, well, there's a lot of competition on the government side. No, there's not. We are wired at the hip with NASA. You know, we work with Tipping Point program there. We work with others. We work with the Space Front Door. We work with all the NWorks and Naval X. All these different organizations. We talk constantly. And the thing that we don't want to do is we want to do no harm to your commercial companies. And that's one of the reasons why we have a pretty good batting record with the finance sector, the people who invest, is because we want to accelerate your commercial plan. And if you see that your commercial plan is not so commercial and you need to pivot, we're going to pivot right with you because we want you to be successful. We're not going to buy something because you can compete with Boeing. You know, because if Boeing makes it, and like an F-15EX, which I like, and we want to buy lots of them, we're just going to go to Boeing for that. But there's ways that we can build and grow our national security innovation base. That's our job at DIU. And with that, I'm going to close and pass it off to Casey. And I'll look forward to seeing you at the reception tonight.
So I'm just here to kind of give an announcement, and General Buteau is the main leader in all of this, and it's been a real honor to work with DIU, Space Force, and Air Force Research Lab for the last 4 years. Like you said, that we've had 5 of these workshop conferences. The first one was small and kind of identified a lot of the challenges, and then since then we've kind of called them our solutions workshop. So we've really, I love the list that you went through of accomplishments, and I really do think that these they're participatory workshops. We have the Chatham House rules so people can speak freely and be able to really make a difference in the recommendations that come out of it. I wanted to say for NewSpace New Mexico, we're really happy to partner and actually support the expansion of this. Our new partner, Space Northwest, as you'll see the next couple of days, they're going to be running one of these. They're really fun workshops. And then on 2 and 3 May, we have the workshop with the launch, commercial space launch with Space Florida. So we were able to kind of partner with them next year, and we're trying to just support the expansion of this. We're pulling together what's called a Space Industrial Council that will bring in these different partners, and we can really work with the DoD and NASA and other organizations to just really keep making a difference for the space industrial base. I just want to really quick tell you the main conference will be 15 through 18 May in Albuquerque, and we plan to have some panels to represent what's going on here in the next couple of days, as well as the Florida workshop at that. But we'll bring together keynotes, try and put together some panels that really kind of hit some of these issue areas, but also highlight some of the game changers that have happened over the last year. So I hope you can make it. Like I said, it's 15 through 18 May. The cards are on the table for how to register. And I hope you continue joining us. And thank you, General Buteau, for letting us have the honor to keep helping put this together and making a difference for the nation's space industry. Thank you.
Hopefully there's a computer coming with my name on it. Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me okay? No, she's got one here. While I was sitting there, this wristband is really bugging me a lot. And then I looked at it and noticed it says 10% off at the museum store. So I think there's another model or two with my name on it down there. You might see it in the backdrop of my office if you're on a Zoom call with me later. Always can use another rocket or airplane. Thanks, Ariel. Okay, good morning. I'm Stan Scholl. I'm an advisor to Space Northwest and really pleased to be here today. I started my career right out of college as an aerospace engineer working on classified military space programs. And this is a topic that's of great interest to me. And so I'm just really thrilled to be a part of this discussion here over the next day and a half. And I look forward to meeting as many of you as I can in the next little while here. So what I wanted to do is just share a little bit about the space ecosystem in the Pacific Northwest with you. We're going to have a panel discussion here in a minute. I just want to give you a quick overview. Particularly for those of you who may be from out of town or not familiar with the compelling space activity we have going on here in this region. But first, I'm going to hopefully I'll hit the right button here. Let's see, try again. There we go. Okay. Is there any way to wake this up? There we go. There we go. I got it. I think let's see if that works. Okay. Shooting ahead here. All right, but first I'm going to start in Ukraine before we hit the Pacific Northwest. So this on the left here is Fanat. He's a drone unit commander in the Donetsk region of Ukraine facing off against Russian troops. He says the thing that has given him the edge in the battle here is his connection to the SpaceX Starlink internet constellation. Now, SpaceX builds its Starlink satellites in Redmond, Washington, about 15 miles up the road here as the crow flies. I prefer to say that's 3 seconds as the LEO satellite flies, but it's still pretty close. The key thing about Starlink isn't not only that it's been, as Bucky said, critical in terms of connecting the warfighter, but it's been vitally important in the humanitarian side of the conflict as well. This is the city of Irpin in Ukraine. It was absolutely brutalized by the Russian occupiers. The city's 24 cell phone towers were destroyed. The citizens had no ability to connect. After the city was liberated, a Vodafone Ukraine employee showed up, put a Starlink terminal on a base station, connected a power generator, and brought the citizens back online. This story has repeated itself over and over again in Ukraine, and the ability to connect to communication satellites has been absolutely pivotal in keeping the citizens as safe as possible and well connected. Another company I want to just call out here as an example is Black Sky. They design, build, and operate their satellites here from Seattle. They're built actually at Leo Stella, a joint venture company just down the road here, a couple miles away. These Earth observation satellites and other companies that provide similar remote sensing capability have been absolutely key to the Ukrainians in providing for their defense and understanding where the Russian troop movements were. And once again, the humanitarian side of this has been even more impressive. Companies like, or groups like the Red Cross and Doctors Without Borders use data from satellites like this to pinpoint where humanitarian assistance is needed most. So I think books will be written about this Ukraine situation and what we learned from it, but I just want to mention 3 things to take away for this conversation. Number one, the rest of the world now knows what the United States has known for a long time, that space is absolutely critical to national defense. It's going to raise the bar for everyone, and we need to raise our game. Number two, commercial entrepreneurial space companies have innovative capability and accessible capability that is on point for the modern warfighter. And that is exactly why DIU, AFRL, and Space Force are working so hard to harness the innovation of the commercial entrepreneurial space sector. And number three, well, I've just cited 2 examples here. I can tell you that when it comes to national security, the space companies in the Pacific Northwest are both leaning into the business opportunity and stepping up to provide for the defense of the United States and its allies. And it's wonderful to see that here in our region. So now let me quickly jump into a little bit about the space economy here, and I'm going to focus more on Washington State and the Seattle area specifically. We have about 10 clusters of hubs of space activity in the United States, and Washington State is certainly one of the leading space clusters now. Hopefully you've all heard of Blue Origin. It's the largest space company here in our region. They do so many cool things. My favorite right now is probably their Orbital Reef private space station. We mentioned Starlink and Amazon Kuiper. These are the huge internet constellations that are going up right now. Both of those are built here in Washington State. Microsoft Azure and Amazon Web Services are the 2 leading cloud computing companies in the world with more than 60% combined market share. These folks have ground station services offerings. They're connecting the satellite networks to the cloud providing a place to do the data analytics that's necessary to bring that remote sensing data to value on Earth. And the DIU has working with AWS, with Azure, with Kuiper on the hybrid space architecture, and many other companies as well. So this is really the nexus here of hybrid space architecture kind of thought leadership, which is one of the great reasons why we're here today at this event. And we also have a great array of startups, Stoke Space, Starfish, Explore, RBC Signals, and many others who have raised a lot of money. And the state economy here is growing very rapidly over the last few years. So here's a slide I put together, which kind of covers most of the space companies in our region. Just a couple quick points. You'll see that it covers the entire end-to-end space and satellite value chain, everything from components to space transportation satellites, operating satellites in space services and infrastructure, and then of course, getting the data and communications back and distributed and analyzed and turned into usable products, whether for national security or commercial purposes. A great array of supporting organizations here. I can't go into all of them, but of course, I'm really pleased to be an advisor to Space Northwest. Is really trying to help promote the entrepreneurial ecosystem here in the Pacific Northwest. Hopefully you all know by now that you are sitting in the satellite capital of the world. More satellites are built here than anywhere else on Earth. Right now, about half of all operational satellites in Earth orbit are built in Washington State, have been built here. Of course, that's largely due to SpaceX Starlink today, but with a significant contribution from Leo Stella down the street and Amazon Project Kuiper. We're launching satellites this year and putting up thousands in the next few years, and Explorer will be launching its first capability soon as well. So going forward, even on a daily basis right now, more satellites are built in Washington State than the rest of the world combined. Six a day right now at SpaceX in Redmond, for instance. So my estimate, I'm kind of an amateur economist on the side. My estimate of the correct direct economic impact on Washington State of our local space industry is about $5 billion a year right now. Maybe it's 6, but let's call it 5. The interesting thing that's happened over the last few years is that we've seen this start in the form of investment, whether it's from Black Sky IPO or venture capital money or the large space companies investing. It's now turning into revenue. So we're seeing this return on investment as companies like Starlink, for instance, is closing in on $2 billion of revenue from that SpaceX constellation. Companies like Black Sky with their National Reconnaissance Office contract, Blue Origin with its New Glenn launch contracts, and many others. So it's fantastic to see this success on the space ecosystem here. On the job front and headcount front, again, my amateur estimation is that we have about 12,000 people employed in the space industry here directly. That's excluding the supply chain that supports them. So I'd probably maybe double that number if you add all of the suppliers that support them. And there are more than 1,000 open jobs right now in the Seattle space economy here. So if you're interested in a space career and you want a whole diversity of companies to be a part of or consider being a part of, this is a great place to have a space career. If you're thinking of starting a space company or you want to grow a space company, you want to locate a space company somewhere, I'd also recommend this area as well. We have all of the key building blocks you need here to grow a continuing growing and robust space ecosystem. The fantastic workforce that I talked about and such a compelling place to live. It never rains here, as you can see. And we're working on the key things to even grow this. The team at Space Northwest here, Kelly Maloney has been a leader in helping to tell the story of space in our state from a marketing perspective. Sean McClinton and Mike Doyle have been right behind the entrepreneurship support for years on this, helping to bring me into this as well. And James Burke has been a huge advocate for space settlement and exploration. So the team is in place to help grow this. And we've got an array of partners with all the other aerospace trade groups in the region and working with so many other people to make this a diverse and collaborative effort. So I think I've covered all the key points here I meant to say about this. I just maybe emphasize one thing about the ecosystem here. It's uniquely entrepreneurial. And as Sean likes to say, it's very homegrown. And what he means by that is we don't have a Los Angeles Space Force base equivalent here. We don't have the equivalent of a Houston Johnson Space Center. So this ecosystem you see here has grown up through private investment, through private investors, and real entrepreneurial homegrown place. And I think that makes us pretty unique. So as I look at the future here for the region, for Washington State and the greater Pacific Northwest, I think we are Still a little underappreciated compared to some of these other places, but I think that's changing, and we're definitely punching way, way above our weight. I think the space ecosystem here has a trifecta of things that sort of make it almost impossible to replicate. It's this combination of information technology and cloud computing leadership in the world with advanced manufacturing and the world's greatest aerospace supply chain. You put those things together, and I think you have the makings of a powerhouse when it comes to both national security space and the long-range exploration and development of space. So thank you very much. I think we're going to have a panel right now.